Welcome to All About Ads Prime, but we are going to be talking beyond advertising today. It's a book, Storm the Norm, by Anisha Motwani. Really a bunch of success stories about brands that have broken stereotypes or being restricted to a particular category and stormed their way to success. First up, snippets of the discussion with authors Gurcharan, Santosh Desai, along with Anisha Motwani, the author, and Ranjan Malik. Take a look.
When the markets are stale, your profits are pale, it's business as usual, you've resigned to your fate.
It's taken me 3 years to put this book together. There's 20 brands, it's their stories, talking to businesses, interacting with them, getting their insights, getting their stories. It was important to actually curate and make that wisdom and that experience available.
I'm sure it will storm the bestseller list.
First of all, let me just introduce quickly the panel itself. Mr. Gurcharan, he's well known as an author and commentator. His many books include India Unbound, one of my favorites, and The Difficulty of Being Good. He's written novels, essays, and is a regular columnist. But what many of us may not be familiar with is that he's had a very successful corporate career as the CEO of Procter & Gamble, India, and Vice President and MD Procter & Gamble worldwide. Mr. Santosh Desai. I first met him several years ago when he was the president of McCann Erickson, and have always valued his point of view, especially when it comes to the relationship between our unique culture, brands, and us as consumers. And of course, he's also happens to be MD and CEO of Future Brands and a columnist. Ranjan Malik is an innovation specialist, and of course, the author and good friend, Anisha Motwani. So let's just dive in. How do you storm the norm? Let me start by something that really blew my mind this morning when I spoke to Mr. Desai. He talked about how most brands are victims of their own suppositions, their own stereotypes. Please elaborate on that, and how can brands get out of this stereotyping in order to storm the norm?
Most brands tend to describe themselves by the category that they are in, and labels give a sense that there is an automatic, it's like preloaded software in our head. So when we say chocolates, immediately a specific world is evoked. When you say colas, you imagine one kind of world. And that is in fact the biggest block that exists. The greatest brands in the world see the same category uniquely. The way an Apple sees a mobile phone and the way a Google sees a mobile phone, they see different things. I think that is the trick. Can you create a unique mental model? The more distinctive and the more original that idea is, the more ownable that market is for that individual brand.
So, may I come to you? What does it take to storm the norm?
I was head of strategy, but if you ask me at the end of the day, I have seen companies with very good strategies fail. Anyone can have a good strategy, but very few can implement it. Success really is more about attitude rather than intelligence, rather than skills. The most important decision a company takes is when it brings a person into the company. And that time, the mistake we make is we look at a CV and it says IIT, IIM. We say, no brainer, let's take it. And we discover that didn't work. And so I wish we could all recruit for attitude and train people in skills. You know, attitudes are fixed in the first 3-4 years of a person's life. They don't change usually. Whereas skills you can always impart. And to me the most important attitude is determination. So it's not intelligence that makes the world go round.
Who are these stormers, Anisha?
When I was studying these 20 brands, there were a few things that were common across all of them. One of the things that I realized is that before anything else, they're storytellers. Each of them started with some kind of a burning ambition and some incoherent thoughts in their head. You know, and then they wrote their narrative. They were trying to create and think about a future which had no present. So it was about a story in their head. So I think that they're great storytellers. You know. The second thing that I noticed was that these people, when they see themselves on the side of majority, okay, they start thinking that this is the time to reflect and introspect. Because the minute you become part of majority, you start getting comfortable. And the third most important thing is this endurance and perseverance. These people have failed, they failed again, and these are stories, there's so many of them that tell you they never got it right the first time, but they did not give up. And spotting the mistakes fast and fixing them fast. So for me, these three things make them stormers.
Ranjan, let me come to you. You say there is a method to this madness, or as you call it, magic. So tell us a little bit about that.
There's a way, knowingly or unknowingly, these stormers went about. There's a methodology in there. And we found a 5-stage process. So the first thing that stood out for us was that it all starts with a stale, stagnant market. How do you know it's a stale, stagnant market? You know, you see a sea of sameness. There are commoditized offerings, wafer-thin margins, and there is a sense of gloom. There's a sense of nothing can happen. Everyone is risk-averse, and that's when a stormer arrives. Often, stormers come from outside. And what do? The next stage is spot the suboptimal. They can see what the incumbents can't see. Sony missed MP3. Beverage brands missed energy drinks. Kodak missed digital. Travel agents didn't foresee online booking. Transportation did not foresee Uber. Once you see the suboptimal, you can't unsee it. And then an idea strikes you. And it's so compelling that you build a prototype. And once you build a prototype, you quickly take it into the market. The first idea that strikes you is simplistic. And then you go through complexity by iterating it rapidly. It evolves, and what emerges on the other side of complexity is elegant simplicity. And then comes the next stage, which is pace to critical mass. Why do some ideas succeed and some don't? Because these ideas are able to hit the critical mass at a pace that creates a wave which becomes a storm. When you do that, then it becomes a fresh, vibrant market. And this is the time when those cynical incumbents who said nothing can happen, are now playing catch up.
Is localizing one of the methods to this magic?
I'm one of those persons who's probably in the minority, because I really believe that if an idea has worked somewhere, chances are it will work somewhere else. And also that human beings are more similar than they are different. You accept an idea because it has worked. The Pantene shampoo became the world's #1 shampoo, but it began in Taiwan. And country after country in Procter & Gamble refused to have anything to do with this sort of product. But in the end, the global proposition, meaning the product, the advertising, the only thing they had to change was the talent, the cast in the commercials. But everything was the same. And achieved 42 countries, it became the #1 shampoo in 3 years. When a global company comes, the tendency is tell them that we are different in India. And because we are different in India, you have to do Netflix differently. And so I would tell the Netflix guys, you have a great global model. Try that, and only then maybe your content will be Indian, etc. You know, you get Indian films.
Mr. Desai, you clearly don't agree with that.
You know, what are brands? Brands are just a form of, a method of consuming meaning. At the consumption end, we always convert something into something that we need and we like and we respond to. It is possible that in some cases, what we respond to is universal. But in most cases, the form in which we consume things is our own. Cadbury's example. It's a great example of how you would imagine chocolate in a certain way, and at a certain point in time, you decided that actually, let's look at it from our own, how do we want to consume this? Where is mithai located in our lives? What are the set of images and meanings that it evokes? You began from the other side, and you discovered a new set of meanings. Technology, for instance, you will find very often is consumed more similar.